Hi guys, tis me, April. I am just back from running, which is one of my most favorite things to do, but it always leaves my hips tight, my hamstrings tight, kind of everything, because depending on how far or fast or whatever, you may have days where shoulders are like up here, or you clench your jaw, or what have you. So for the next several minutes, we're going to look at what I feel are the most effective post-run stretch yoga shapes that we've got. You may or may not have or want a yoga block. If you don't have a block, books are great. You can even use several stacks of pillows. It's just an option if your body can go in that direction on any one day. Don't worry if it doesn't work, it's all good. So, jumping right in, one of the first things you absolutely should do, I feel, is Malasana, yogi squat. So, you bring your hips between your heels. You're trying to put a little more weight into your heels. So if you're here, you're not really going to get the benefit of the lengthening into Achilles, into calves, and you won't be able to release any tension that has started to creep up in this low back. So as best you can, you want to start lowering your heels down and rocking back, balancing on those feet. Now if heels are just not going to touch, no big deal, you can stay up, but try to lift your chest, and then we've got this deep anterior tilt of your pelvis. So this is a good place to be. I always recommend pushing your knees apart. So I'll even do this when I'm stuck at lights at intersections, just kind of hang out, open up adductors and all of that good stuff. So that's where I absolutely feel you should start. Once you come back and you're ready to do the rest of your post-run work, Baddha Konasana, diamond-shaped legs. Now a few notes on our Baddha Konasana. Depending on how close you bring your heels in is the part of your hips and glutes that you will work. So heels closer is not necessarily always better. If you're comfortable with heels in, I want to encourage you to scooch those feet out, because when you come forward, you're going to notice it's traveling further up the outside back of those legs. For running stretches, for my purposes, I'm never bothered if your back is going to round. This isn't necessarily yoga, this is just recovery work. So, Baddha Konasana, diamond-shaped legs. You can separate those feet, finding froggy legs, and coming forward again. I'm not bothered if your back is going to round. We're not here for a yin amount of time. So that would be the first modification or the first option for working back outside of hips into glute max. So, a lot of people like the Agnisthambasana, the fire logs. It does not matter if ankles and knees line up. Doesn't matter to me. The thing I want you to do is, one, feel safe, and two, we want to bring the top knee closer to the ground. So if that means that we're stacking ankles, cool. You can always use this hand to kind of press your knee down very gently as we fold forward. Caution, running shoes do not feel good on ankles or outsides of shins. If we are to the place where we're stacking here, I'm going to encourage you to bring chest forward and down. You want to feel just enough stretch, discomfort, sensation, so you feel like you're getting something done. Do not force. Bodies are going to be really warm still, but there's no reason to try to press your forehead to the floor. That's a different journey. If you are not working with Agnisthambasana, those stacked fire logs, we have a couple other alternatives. The first one we're going to go into is a little more accessible for most people, and that's our figure 4 legs. So you're lying on your back. Heels are kind of closest to your tush. You're going to cross, let's say, right ankle over left knee. So here's the first place you may need a block or a book. I always recommend starting with something in your hand, and you're going to push that knee away. You'll notice opening into the front of your hip flexor area, kind of coming into adductors. You're going to feel it all down the outside of hip area. You might even feel a little bit into that poofiest part of your glute max. This is just a gentle pushing. Again, we're not trying to take the knee totally forward. Now, note about feet. I flex my feet because it's my habit. Does not matter if your foot's hanging out or if you're flexing, kind of whatever works for you. So, second part into our figure 4 legs, if you want more hip, even working into the other hamstring, you're going to come up. So if your right ankle is on your knee, your right hand goes through the hole. Interlace both sets of fingers behind your knee before anything else. Flop back down. You may notice that your shoulders round or your bum kind of lifts up. It's all good. Remember, this is not yoga. These are running recovery stretches. So as we're here, I want to try to bring those legs a little closer. A lot of people, out of habit, just stick this foot up in the air, and that's fine. But remember, this isn't just a pretty thing. We want function into the hamstring. So if you're able, maybe moving your hands above this right shin, coming a little closer, and that's where we'll work into that opposite hamstring and a whole lot of sensation back here. So that's a lovely one. And yes, absolutely, everybody's most favoritist recovery pose, pigeon. So here we go. I think the easiest way to get into it, remember, not yoga, so we don't need to swing back. So again, this is my right knee, and I'm going to slide it all the way to my right wrist. Now walk my foot through. Heel is in line with the center of that left thigh, those quads. Now start very gently to walk your back leg behind. I always flex the front foot. It's my habit. If it doesn't work for you, keep it soft. So, big thing here, if that right hip is lifted, I highly recommend finding something to prop it up, because we don't want to dump down. We are still trying to keep nice alignment here. Heart forward, and then really shrug your shoulders back. So this is pigeon shape. I'm going to move this block out. This is not sleeping swan. This is, yes, sleeping swan. But depending on what you need, you might want to stay nice and high in a pigeon. That's going to work the front, back leg. We can't get psoas here, it's too deep, but you'll still feel that lovely stretch and release into hip flexor. But if you feel like, one, you're a little too tired to take this time, and if you want a little more pushing down into the right hip, because my right leg is forward, absolutely, come down, flop, hang here. Please, darlings, no longer than 90 seconds, really and truly. We don't want to overtax these muscles that have shortened for however long we're running. And certainly we don't want to go the other way too quickly, because micro tears suck. They just don't feel good. So I'm going to take off my shoes here, because plantar fasciitis is a thing that develops. It's going to start here at the base of your toes, right where they join the ball of your foot. It creates a tightening of this plantar bottom fascia, our little connective tissues, and it can create this little curling in of feet. So, this does not feel good. You might want your block or stack of books or something to put your hands on. This is what one of my teachers called toe torture, aptly named. So, very first place we'll all start. I always do this because my hands hurt. So you're gonna lean forward and tuck these toes underneath and press your hips back. My feet are not floppy here. I'm actively pressing my toes back as if I want to sweep them behind me. I'm pushing a little more of my weight into my heels while I'm sweeping those toes back. This might be plenty. Stay here, it's all good. If you need a little more, that's when we're gonna raise up our hands. I'm still pressing a little weight back. I'm still flapping those toes back as if they're going to release. So here I am for a little while. Maybe this is plenty. For more intensity, you're gonna start walking that block a little more. The higher your chest gets, the more downward pressure you're going to feel. This is marvelous. I don't really recommend hanging out on the top of your block because, you know, smaller base, much more wobbliness. So if you're ready, you're gonna lose my face here, but you wanna try to sit tall, shoulders over hips. I'm still sweeping my toes back as if I want them to come out behind. This is a labor of love. It does not feel good. It still doesn't feel good to me, and I do it every time I run. But, I don't want my feet to cramp any more than they already do. Wherever you are along this scale, 30 seconds on good days. More is not necessarily better. If your toes are like mine afterwards and kind of feeling back, I recommend bringing the toes underneath, little flippy flops. And then if you have the mobility in your ankles and stability in your knees, you can always come back, lifting knees a teeny tiny bit. This one is 3 to 5 seconds at most. More is not better. So, those are some of my favorites for hips and feet. Lengthening into hamstrings. Basic is good here. Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. Again, I'm flexing my feet because I'm used to it. If your feet are floppy, it's all good. Again, this isn't yoga. These are recuperative stretches. So if back's round, no bigs. We do want to take a nice deep breath wherever we are and gently starting to walk down legs. Now I will say, soft feet, you're not going to get as much engagement, as much release into your backs of your legs. So if you're able, flexing feet. But do remember, we want to build good habits. So if in order to grab your feet, you're bending your knees, you're kind of cheating yourself out of the hamstring release. So we want to bring those legs down as much as they're going to go and only going as far as flopping is comfortable. This one you can hang in 45 seconds to a minute depending on what works for you. Anything else, shoulders or back, shrugging, giving yourself those hugs, little gentle seated twists from side to side, and then you're good to go. Should feel nice and loose, should be able to move a little more freely. So there you go. April's favorite post-run stretching recovery routine. If you enjoyed the video, yay, I'm thrilled. Maybe you feel like sending a few bucks my way. I've got my little tag in my banner. Maybe not, it's all good. I love you so much. Have a most amazing day.